Hello, everybody. Sorry we are a little bit late. We get caught up chatting, you know who we like. But it's nice to see you if you are here already. If you are here, please say hello in the comments. Add, where you're from. Sometimes, for some reason, it doesn't show us who's commented, so please maybe add a name as well, just so then we can see it. But we are here and ready to have a really great conversation. We'll give some people some time to join as well, so we won't just get started straight away. So yeah, this is where I have to find things to ramble about. Sally, can you help me?
What mumbling about? Well, we were slightly late, so I was just giving you a download on,
Yes.
well, actually, some of the things that we're going to be talking about in terms of kind of like stress and how on the surface we may appear to be all fine. And actually, this morning I've been feeling a bit overwhelmed and I'm feeling a bit inside, but I can smile and have a lovely conversation and perform calm. And I think that's common for a lot of people, isn't it? I think it's something that we've learned to do. So
Yeah, learn to do relatively well for a lot of people. But yeah, we are. Yeah, it's not only you the reason why we're late. There's also partly me and my preparation. So can't take all the blame, Sally.
Not at all. We're all good.
Yeah, we're all good. Look, it's 90 seconds in. This is usually when I get started on this. So I said, guys, if you are here and you are listening, please say hello. Please add questions and ask Sally anything that you feel you want to ask her. Maybe even add some reflections and some pointers as well. The more you guys add, the better this is. So please get involved. But I am very lucky and pleased to have my friend Sally on for a second time. You are one of a select few who have had the pleasure to do this twice, Sally, and it is a huge pleasure, I must say myself.
I'm very fortunate. I'm very lucky. Thank you so much for having me a second time.
But there's a few reasons why I wanted you on here. Obviously, it's Stress Awareness Month, and we are at the end of that. And I think it's a really great opportunity just to raise a little bit more awareness, talk about stress. But also, you are now a published author. And I wanted to bring awareness to the book and showcase that. And so, we will get into that in a little bit more detail. But for everybody listening, we'll do a couple of introductions just so you guys know who we are. And then, we'll get into it. So if I do mind first, get out of the way, so then we can get you on talking about this kind of magical stuff, right? So me, my name's Rich. I am a high performance executive coach. I help leadership and people thrive and perform at their best both inside and outside of work. I'm also the founder of Employees Health and a new company which is coming soon, which is around leadership performance. But Employees Health is a workplace wellbeing company, and it's linked to this podcast, which is called the Wellbeing Chat, where we try and help educate people in how they can look after their well-being, and Sally is part of that group, and people I can call upon to help me and companies do that. And I'm very fortunate to have her there because she is a wealth of knowledge and a fantastic stress mental health professional. So very lucky to have you here. That's me. If you want to know more about what we do in any of those kind of two areas, please give us a shout. That's that bit over and done with. Sally, over to you. Please introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about who you are and what you do.
Sure thing. Thanks, Rich. I'm Sally Desborough. I'm a mental health awareness educator. So under that umbrella sits a passion and a drive to raise awareness, to tackle stigma and discrimination, but most importantly, equip people with the tools and skills to look after themselves and the people around them. And all of that stems from my lived experience of mental ill health. When I became unwell with depression and anxiety in 2016, I recognized that nobody was really talking about mental health. And I was very scared about opening up and talking about what was going on for me because I thought people would judge me. When I did speak up, I had some wonderful, amazingly supportive people around me. And then I had some very difficult, damaging conversations that made me feel a million times worse. And I thought I was at the bottom of the pit. Well, those conversations made me drop even lower, even though I didn't know I could go any lower. So I really wanted to, I I was really thinking about how we equip people with the skills to have meaningful and safe conversations when they're struggling. And I think there is still a need now, but also looking at workplace wellbeing much more broadly and looking at culture and how important that is. So what I do as part of kind of like workplace wellbeing through mental health first aid, suicide first aid, a lot of people manager workshops. Historically, I worked in HR, so I have over a decade experience in the HR world, so a foundation there that really helps me to write some of those programs with mental health in mind. And as you mentioned, the author now of the book You Pick Up on a Bad Day. I'm an NLP certified practitioner too, so I've been doing a bit of coaching here and there. But that's something that I don't really talk about too much. But yes, it's something that I do too, and that's me really.
Yeah, and I think what I like most about you, Sally, and if you don't mind me sharing this, is that link between HR and the mental health. Because when you have those conversations, you say, we're going to do stuff around mental health and how you guys can do this better as a group of leaders or an organization. Having that HR and policy / the right way to do things knowledge there is such a great ability that falls so helpfully into the mental health for organizations remit.
Yeah, 100%. I think I'm so grateful for my HR background and the path that I'm now on. When I think to some of the courses that I've delivered, and as a mental health first aid instructor, it doesn't matter your background when you become qualified as an MHFA instructor. But I do think, if I had a marketing background, I probably wouldn't be able to answer half the questions that I get in the training room, because they all relate to kind of people management, or, well, how do I manage this? And, from an HR perspective, and actually it's really helpful in navigating those conversations. And I think, we can manage people with mental health in mind. We do have policies and processes and procedures, but equally we have to remember we're dealing with humans too. So you've got the policy, yes, you're dealing with the humans. So how do we do things in the right way? It's not necessarily black and white. You've got lots of grey areas. There's lots of ways you can bend things, because people are people and they need help and support. But equally, you've got the performance side and the business side and whatever else. So yeah, striking that balance, I get massively helpful when I'm working with organisations to have the HR background and that insight of the complexities that you might face.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that's where I think, the even more value you add is there as well. So look, let's get into the book. Released this year. It is on my shelf. It should be higher up.
Mine's totally like I've carried it around. It's slightly dented because I haven't as well as I could have done, but it's also been used quite a lot. Not going to lie, I've been using my book.
Yeah. Obviously, you released in February.
Yeah.
I would like your thoughts on your book.
Oh, gosh. You'd like my thoughts? Well, it's amazing, obviously. So
I don't disagree.
It's been a passion project, and this was 15 months in the making. So one massive thing that I learned was it takes longer than you think it will. And we kind of did this internally. We haven't had any support from kind of publishing houses or anything like that. It was all our kind of own research and, my thoughts, and it all really stems from my bad days. And I do love this resource. I love coming back to it. I love that I can do different things every time I come back to it. And it's just a helpful reset, really. It's not meant to fix anything or provide solutions. It's almost like a companion, really. So, yeah. I mean, what are your thoughts on the book?
I think the word resource is a really great word for it, because I think it's something which you can go to as a reminder, or you can go to when you're having that bad day, just to go, oh, this is something I can do.
Yeah.
And it's something in your back pocket or on that bookshelf or wherever you put it that you can pick up and go, I'm having a bad day, or I'm struggling today or this week or wherever it is, and go, what are some of the things that I can do to look after myself? And for me, it is a resource. It's a resource which I think not only adults, and it could be a reminder for people who know that, can use. But one of the things I think, and I think I said to you as well, is that actually I think it is perfect for all ages. And it actually, if you had this as a parent and you walked through this with your kids to give them that practical steps as well, I think it also adds a really nice adds a really nice education for kids to understand some of these practical parts as well, because it's so actionable.
Yeah, I think it's accessible. I've had that feedback that it's accessible irrespective of age. So really, being a woman in her late 20s, and this really kind of comes from my lived experience of having bad days, particularly around my menstrual cycle. I'm happy to be open about that. 2 to 3 days leading up, life just felt awful and horrendous and hopeless and despair, and nothing was good. So I really kind of designed this for 25 to 50-year-old women, but actually the feedback I've had is primary school teachers are putting them in their schools for the kids as well as the teachers, because it is accessible. And that was the whole point, because on those bad days I didn't want to pick up a massive book with lots and lots of text. I didn't have the energy, and I didn't want to pick up my phone and go through scrolling and conflicting advice. I didn't want to do that either. I just didn't have the energy for that. But so I wanted something to pick up that was tangible but not overwhelming when you're already feeling overwhelmed with all those maybe negative feelings. So that was the whole idea, just simple, straightforward, not painful to pick up and read, just a very quick go-to resource that might provide that sense of comfort.
And I think you're spot on. And I think in it, depending on where you are with mental health and stress and your actual awareness of practical steps, it gives you either the reminder and the action to go and do, or it opens your eyes up to things you can do. And it has lots of different things. And whether you're somebody who needs to breathe, or it needs to get outside or do some exercise, or whether you just need to be a little bit creative, it gives you that just to maybe provide a little bit of kind of mindfulness or some other bits which can just allow us just to manage that stress and manage the overwhelm and some of the other things that can really build upon us.
And this was created last year, and it arrived in November. I didn't release it until February. Well, there were lots of ups and downs, and I was using this as a resource to remind myself of trying not to catastrophize and feel so overwhelmed with doing something completely outside of my comfort zone and something brand new. And the feedback has been amazing in terms of as a go-to resource. And sometimes I feel agitated and I don't know why. I'm sitting there and I think, why do I feel so on edge? Right, I'm just going to do some colouring. And then I can rub it out, and then I can do it tomorrow differently if I want to. So, yeah.
And I think it's for me, it's the reminder that yes, so you've got pages of information around you could doodle, but that if they doodle, they might also then go off and do a bigger doodle, or actually get the jigsaw out, or they might get something else out. It's also the reminder of these activities as well.
Yeah, it's a starting point. It's a starting point. Yeah.
I love it. And I think it's such a nice little, the way it's set up, the fact that you can interact with it. And obviously being able to, you've got a couple of links in here with QR codes which take you to other areas as well, which just, I think, can be a really nice resource just to have in your back pocket.
Yeah, something practical. Just wanted something practical, some easy, quick wins. Again, it's not about fixing stuff. It's just easy, quick wins. Just to, if you're feeling a 3 out of 10, how can we try to help you to shift you to maybe a 4 or 5 out of 10?
Yeah. And I think this process, becoming an author, this process being all in place, I think you should be super proud. I think you've done a great job.
Yeah, I am really proud of it. And I was quite quiet about it with a lot of people, actually. But yes, I do feel good about it. And keep on that journey with trying to get it out there and collaborate and work with people as well.
Yeah, 100%. Well, congratulations. And onwards and upwards for this book, especially. I think that leads us really well into stress, right? And some of the things we're going to speak about today. Look, the first thing I want to do is just reflect quickly. We are at the end of Stress Awareness Month. And I want to just throw it over to you, because I know you work in this space a lot more than I do, and we'll have a lot more kind of experience around the conversations. What's coming up for you at the moment?
I think what's coming up is there's a lot to be stressed about. A lot of people are feeling overwhelmed. I think there's a lot of conversation at the moment about organizations trying to get people back into their offices for 4 and 5 days a week, and how stressful that has been, and trying to create that balance. And of course, hybrid working hasn't worked for everybody. Some people do need to be in the office 4 or 5 days a week and have people around them. But I think there has been a lot of conversation and concern around this kind of mandatory, you need to be present in the office 4 or 5 days. I think there's been discussion around finances and really looking at bottom line, and maybe making organizations smaller but still trying to achieve the same amount. So I think people are feeling overwhelmed, 3 people maybe doing 5 people's jobs. So I think there's been a lot of that going on, really, and talking to organizations about, we do want to recognize Stress Awareness Month, and we want to, we've got Mental Health Awareness Week coming up very shortly too. We do want to recognize it, but we don't also want to do something that just ticks a box and is kind of like let's have a mindfulness session. Well, actually what I need right now is 2 more people in the team. I don't need another mindfulness session. So it's about those meaningful conversations, I think, that people are looking for, given the context of, organizations. I think, honestly, I think there's so much to be stressed about. I really do, whether that's kind of work or family or all these global events that are going on. And I think and there's big stuff, but then you've got all the small stuff, right? You've got all the small stuff of that extra email. Okay, right. Oh, I've got to reply to that WhatsApp message. Right. Okay. And that's a real struggle when you've got all these micro things, as well as all these big things going on as well.
Yeah, I think 2 parts you recognize there, and I think one is this cultural kind of understanding and improvement. And correct me if I'm wrong, and like I've seen this over the last kind of 2 or 3 years, is we did quite a lot of education around mental health and stress, and obviously there's still more to be done. And some people haven't touched the surface on it, but I think now we're looking into at the workplace and at the culture and how we're actually setting up work in a position where the world is challenging that opportunity due to people making teams smaller, and then obviously with stuff going on in the world, which is causing that as well, creating that difficulty there for organizations to look after it potentially, but also people to understand and manage that as well.
Yeah, I think there's so much at play, and what worries me is the sustainability of this, expecting people to work in that way. It's not sustainable. There are so many people experiencing stress, anxiety, depression in the workplace, and it isn't really any wonder. For a long time, I remember, the conversations being, we need to do more with less, but there's going to be a breaking point, and people are starting to break, understandably so. We're not designed to work in such a way over long periods of time. And that's the biggest concern for me, is how do organizations expect people to sustain that level of performance whilst keeping their health, because the performance will either dip or the health will dip, or both will dip. So it's about finding ways to make sure that those systems are in place, and people and processes, so that people can work in a sustainable way.
Yeah, look, I'm going to jump on that quickly and ask you what your thoughts are and how companies do that. Big question, but I'd like to know what you're seeing, what you're advocating.
So, it's a great question. It's a big, difficult question. How do companies do that? I think they need to look at wellbeing as a priority, a key strategic priority, that it isn't a nice to have, that actually, if your people are well, then performance and profitability will happen. Like, you can't have one without the other, ultimately. So I think it's about, thinking about it from a strategy level, because they could be looking at the money here and now and the profit and loss, but by reducing staff or whatever, you're probably going to have more people unwell. That's going to cost your business in the longer run. So take a preventative measure and think about how you can keep your people healthy while stretching them. Yeah, you want people to feel stretched and motivated, but how you get that balance so that they are able to sustain. And building community, psychological safety will be really important in this. So, starting point of kindness, and this month's theme has been leading with love.
Mm-hmm.
That's about starting with kindness and compassion and acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easier for people to get the support if somebody does leave the team, so that you're communicating together and you're living it together. So I think it's about creating those communities in the workplace so that people can access the support that they need. People can ask for help when they need it. We know how people are reticent to ask for help when they need it. If you're creating psychological safety, people can do that. But I really think it starts with the strategic direction of, we have to remember that well-being is the heart, because if our people aren't well, they're not going to perform, and we're not going to be profitable, and it's going to cost us in the long term.
Yeah. And I also think slightly where this is where I'm going to connect it to your book in regards to everybody's going to manage their well-being slightly different. So how individualized, or as a collective or an average, how can we individualize our support or opportunity for people to look after their well-being? And obviously, well-being is a big broad title, right? But stress is a big part of that, and probably one of the biggest parts of that is that stress part. How do people look after that? What do you need to do to create people to look after that as a collective? And how do we not only allow people to have the behaviors, but what's our role in giving them too much work, which is then going to cause some of those issues as well?
Yeah.
Because it individualized, isn't it?
There isn't one size that fits all. I think it comes to understanding of people. What are their drivers? What are their motivators? Where do their strengths lie? What do they want, from their future? And, building those relationships. And I think that's going to really stand organizations in good stead. Because you're right, there isn't one size that fits all. And what helps Susan at 43 years old with 3 kids is going to be different to Barry, who's 25 and single. The motivators and drivers are going to be different, and what supports their well-being is going to be different. And there are so many things that we can do, like breathing exercises or yoga, but again, that's not necessarily going to be attractive to one person, whereas another person might find that really helpful. So I think it's giving people the space and time to work that out, which can be tricky when you're working 70-hour weeks.
Yeah, completely agreed. I think the thing I like, and I think we spoke about it in our the bio for this, is the understanding micro teams. So actually, when you have an organization, and especially within large organizations, there's lots of teams within there. Allowing those teams to figure it out as a team, I think that could be a really nice starting point. Actually, organizations giving their teams the way to figure out what that looks like, and still have their KPIs, still have those things in place, but allowing them to do their thing individually. And that could be a good starting point, rather than going, this is a company-wide thing we're going to do. Speak to their teams and figure out, okay, how do we work best? How do we reach these? And what do we need to put in place?
Yeah, 100%. The organization does have a responsibility, but we as individuals do as well. And if we're working in teams, how can we support one another effectively? How can we be there for one another if we are going through a stressful time? How we carry stress will feel a lot different if we're working collectively together rather than carrying it on our own, feeling overwhelmed inside. It feels very, very different when you're sharing it compared to when you're feeling alone and isolated with it. And, I think the micro stresses people ignore, but I think they're more important to pay attention to, if not more important to pay attention to. When we feel the big stresses, like a massive bill that's come out, it's really kind of obvious, but those micro stresses of that other email, okay, that's another thing to do on my to-do list out of that meeting. It's all those little things that it's like a dripping tap. And the bucket will fill up eventually, but if you're ignoring it, and we get used to ignoring it because it's like a buzz, it's there all the time. It's not a meltdown on the kitchen floor situation. It's just there all the time, like a little buzz, and you learn to ignore it. And it's like a muscle memory. You just ignore it, but actually it creeps out, and we know that can lead to burnout as well. And I think sometimes people think burnout, it's this big, sudden, massive crash, and it's not that at all. It isn't necessarily a big, massive crash all of a sudden. It's all of that unrelenting stuff that's going on and on and on and on. And then there's a point where you're just physically and mentally exhausted, and you can't do that anymore.
Yeah, I think yes, spot on. And that's where looking after those micro stresses, and actually giving people a chance to sit in and understand what the micro stresses are and figure out their own way of dealing with it as well. But the time's a commodity, and if they're working 70 hours a week, normally they're on projects which are 70 hours a week projects. So actually creating that space to look after those micro stresses.
Yeah, I think it's so hard. I honestly think it's so hard because we're dealing with so much, but also you're expected to look calm, cool, and collected in dealing with all of that.
And professional, and this expert.
Unbothered. I'm totally unbothered with all the stuff I'm dealing with. How is that realistic? And so we perform being calm. We're not actually calm. We're not creating calm. You know, about Stress Awareness Month, and I went for a morning walk, and it was a gorgeous morning. And I thought, oh, just in case I want to put some content out, I'll take some pictures and some videos. I've done it once this month because I actually want to take care of myself. I don't want to look like taking care of myself. I take care of myself. It's not performative. It's not a created self-care. I'm actually going on this walk for my well-being and taking a video, being concerned about all social media content. That's stressful. I don't need that. And I think that's what we come to see as well, is this kind of performative self-care or performative actually creating calm. We're just performing it to everybody.
Yeah, that's a really interesting concept, is the outward look that we have to provide, which has to be a professional rather than the real life authentic. This is where we're taking ourselves back a step or two, talking about the authentic selves, right?
Yeah,
we turn up authentically.
Yeah, and that's it. And I've certainly had times, and it's emotionally exhausting pretending that performing calm. It's absolutely exhausting. And I've definitely had times where I've said, yeah, I'm fine, thanks, or everything's good, or yeah, just work's a bit busy, and that's about it. Whereas actually what I've wanted to say is I'm not okay, and I just want to cry right now because I couldn't slow down, or I couldn't be honest because I didn't feel psychologically safe, because I know you're not my person to speak to, because I know it won't be received well. If you get the space to say I'm not okay, that's really hard. So it's emotionally exhausting when you feel like you're inside you're overwhelmed or really struggling, but there's no space to say that you're okay.
It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people are feeling it. There's this expectation to, you just get on with it. You just, this is the job, this is the work, just crack on.
Yeah, and you'll have some time, like the narrative is you'll have some time to get over it once the project's done, but the project's never done, or there's the next project to deal with.
Yeah, there's like zero downtime. It's just, if you need a month to recover, this year Kirsty and I were working on releasing the book, and we did all the work with Time to Talk Day. And, through March, we were absolutely depleted of energy. We had pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed, and that was our doing. And we hadn't necessarily fleshed out how big these projects were going to be, particularly around Time to Talk Day, with everything that we wanted to do and put out there. So we're doing some really good work, really positive stuff. But by the end of February, we were just totally exhausted. And it took us pretty much the whole of March, and I think into Stress Awareness Month, we actually started to feel like our usual selves. But that's within my gift of running my business and having Kirsty support, is we can decide what we're going to do and how we're going to let up and slow things down. Whereas when you're an employee, you don't necessarily have that. You finish that project, right, here's the new brief. And then you don't have that opportunity for downtime, and it's really, really tough. And then you kind of think, well, is it any wonder so many people are burning out, when that is the way of a lot of workplaces at the moment?
Yeah. I've got a question which is a bit of a throw you under the bus question, and I'm sorry, but I know you'll deal with this like the hero you are. I can sense the confidence in it. I am confident in you in answer this question.
Okay.
From your HR brain, how do you deal with this?
How do we deal with the project?
Yeah, that kind of opportunity to manage the micro stress.
To manage the micro stress. So there's this big lie of I'm fine that everybody says, or as an HR person, this is really hard, because I think wellbeing is everybody's responsibility, and HR can support. And I think that was something that was always frustrating for me, is HR are the wellbeing people. And it's like, well, no, everybody needs to be involved in wellbeing at work, you know, individuals, managers, directors. I think it's about having everybody involved. HR can certainly support the business in terms of creating spaces through networks like DE and I networks, so that we can network, we can have supportive conversations, we can create psychological safety. I don't think it is HR's responsibility.
Mhm.
Like, it's a holistic thing, right? So HR definitely involved and may lead on certain things, but definitely need the role of kind of directors and line managers involved. I think, again, supporting the culture around having safe and meaningful conversations. So, you know, that might be through awareness and training, that might be through people sharing their vulnerabilities, that can encourage people to open up and talk about things as well. I think we need to get out of this I'm fine loop. So how do we do that? It might be just about saying one thing of, that was a tough meeting, or I'm feeling really tired. It's quite busy at the moment. I could do with a little bit of help. It could be just one honest sentence that we say to somebody, and you know, creating the culture so that people can do that. I think when it comes to micro stress, micro breaks, again, I think this is a personal thing of, you know, right, I've just spent an hour and a half looking at that report. I feel exhausted. Now I've got that email, and now, you know, I've got a WhatsApp from a friend. They want to go out this weekend, and I've got to reply to that. And okay, I just need to take a micro break. I need to take a micro something to look after myself. I just need to step away, take 10 minutes. So I don't know if that answers your question about what HR can do. I think they can support with the culture.
Yeah.
And
For me,
yeah.
I think potentially I probably put quite a lot on what HR can do. More of maybe not a policy, but I think maybe this is where I'm wrong a little bit. But the HR, how the companies run well, more so than again HR to fix the problem. But how do we make sure that the companies are doing the things correct for their people, more so than expecting HR to be the people to do the things? Do you see where I'm coming from?
So it stems from leaders, right?
Yeah. Okay. Lead on
And
that for me.
so, so it stems from leaders and expectations from leaders and the role that they play when it comes to wellbeing at work, and really setting the tone for the organization. You know, I do work with organizations who, let's say, they have some outdated views, who might say, well, we didn't have that support, you know, 30 years ago, so why should we provide this support to our people now? Because life has changed, the world has changed, everything evolves, the economy's changed, people's expectations also change, and the world looks very different compared to 30, 40 years ago. So that plays a massive role, because you might have the HR team really trying to do the right things, but if the leaders aren't willing to listen to it, then that's a bit of a sticky situation. Culturally, might not be able to do anything, but you know, they might be willing to invest, you know, a few £100 in a seminar. It's not going to create a huge amount of change, but I guess it's something. Something is better than nothing. There's got to be a starting point somewhere, and trying to find your voice and find your way into that is going to be important. But yeah, I think leaders play a huge part in all of that.
And I'm going to continue on this leadership part. And I think, there are a lot of potential wrongdoings. Let's look at what leaders can, or what good looks like from leadership when it comes to supporting that micro stress, the performing calm, and creating our authentic selves. And especially when it comes to this topic around the compassionate and kindness, and leading with love, there is a big, as you said, big role in leadership. What does good look like when it comes to that?
So what does good look like when it comes to, so to managing micro stress? So, I mean, where do you start with this?
I told you I'm throwing you on the bus. I'm so sorry.
You probably want policies and procedures that kind of set out the expectations, and they're not just written gathering dust, but they're actually lived and breathed every day. Seeing your leadership as role models, so that people can really see, you know, if you're talking about well-being and this, that, and the other, but then the leaders themselves are working 70, 80-hour weeks and sending emails at midnight, the message isn't really going to land. We know that sharing vulnerability, sharing stories can be really powerful as well. Taking the lunchtime walk, when leaders are seen to be doing that, having informal conversations, right? Monday morning, team get together. What did everybody do at the weekend? There's no work talk at this point. We're creating opportunities for connection, and we're relating to one another, and how leadership circles can do that amongst themselves. Then those direct reports, they do it with them, then they do it with them, and then they do it with them. So we're starting to see that ripple through the organization as well. We're thinking about, giving people the opportunity to raise their voice, to feed up the organization. It's not all coming down, but also, okay, so what can we do? How can we improve things? How can we build connection? How can we make, working life easier for you?
And
building
fun.
Nah.
Is it easier, but fun as well, right?
Yeah, fun. In Sweden, moved to Sweden. In Sweden, the expectation is that you love your job.
Yeah.
You are expected to love your job and have fun at work.
Yeah.
And realistically, if you asked a lot of people in Great Britain and the UK, do you love your job? Do you enjoy it every single day? How many people are going to say yes?
Yeah. Or even as a collective, do you enjoy your job every week? Like
Yeah.
every day, some days are going to be harder than others, and we understand that. But do you have fun at work? I don't think it's the answer to stress, right? But if you can go in there and have fun with the people you're working with, it makes that stress a little bit easier to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that comes back to connections, doesn't it? It comes back to connections and relationships, the ability to have a laugh in moments of adversity, to tell silly jokes or whatever that might be, or that Netflix recommendation. Yeah. And the people that you work with play such a massive part in how you feel every day.
And I come from a place where I've not really been in the corporate space that much as an employee, right? Well, I've never been in the corporate space as an employee, but the places where I've enjoyed working, we made sure it was a really fun place to be.
Nice.
And I feel like from the outside looking in, it can get a bit serious and a bit too serious, and people are like, there's no space for people to go and have fun and build those great relationships and socialize outside of it. And I think what we're missing there is an opportunity. And leadership, and then leaders become this thing up in the top, which don't even get involved in that either. And actually, I think there could be a space for that to happen as well.
Yeah, certainly. And it's so true. I think when I think about where I've worked, if I've not been happy, it's actually the people that often keep you there because they are fun, or you've got good, strong relationships. And when that kind of falls away, then you're kind of like, I definitely need to move on. And you might realize actually there was a job that I had, and quite quickly I knew, oh crikey, what have I done? I knew very, very quickly. But I built some good relationships, maybe with a couple of people, and they kept me there. So even though I knew it wasn't right, the culture wasn't right for me, I managed to cling on for quite a while. So I think having fun, having those small exits from stress before it spirals, those moments of laughter, those moments of let's go for a walk and talk, let's share a Netflix recommendation, let's do these things so that we are well. That's the thing. I think people are so busy. I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this team call to talk about these recommendations. I don't have time to talk about the weekend. But if you don't build those relationships and create those connections, you're probably not going to be well, because it is a major determinant of well-being in the workplace, is our sense of belonging and our relationships. So, and I think that is the struggle. I don't have time for all of this. Well, if you don't do it, then actually things could be a lot worse, and you might spiral because you're feeling the stress and carrying it alone.
Spot on. And look, where to go next? I think, as you said, recognizing that leadership has a huge role, organizations have a huge role, and so let's look at this individual part, and we're kind of covering like these 4 different areas, right? Performing well, the fine loop, micro stress, and compassion and kindness, what's the individual, what can I do as an individual for that?
So starting with yourself around compassion and kindness. So many of us have a really negative inner critical voice. Why aren't I coping? How is everybody else able to do it? How do they expect me to cope with all of this? And all of this kind of negative inner critical voices going on. And that just makes you feel a million times worse. So I think actually being gentle with yourself, being kind to yourself, and speaking to yourself as you would a best mate. You know, if someone's really struggling at work, well, why aren't you coping? What is wrong with you? It looks like everybody else can manage. If that's what you'd say to a friend, jog on. You're not my friend. You'd be saying, it sounds like you're going through something really stressful. It sounds like workload is up, people is low. Is it any wonder that you're feeling so overwhelmed at the moment? Okay, if I'd say that to a friend, then maybe I need to treat myself with a bit more kindness and compassion and acceptance. And, you know, this is how I feel. I am feeling overwhelmed and stressed, but actually recognizing I'm not alone with this. You know, I work in a team. We're all feeling the pressure. And again, just giving yourself the gift to have those exits, those kind of micro exits to manage the micro stress. Giving yourself permission to actually say, I'm not doing okay today. I couldn't sleep last night. There's so much on my mind. Just saying one honest thing with a member of your tribe, whether that's, you know, somebody in your team or somebody outside of your team, but you've got a good relationship with. Just remembering you're human and you're not built for chronic stress. And if you're feeling that and you're feeling those feelings and thinking those thoughts, then remember you're human and you're responding in a very human way. The next step, I think, is then how you might kind of seek out that support, whether that's giving yourself a gift of, right, I'm taking a 15-minute walk, I'm taking a full 45-minute lunch. I might not feel like I've got time for a 45-minute lunch, but actually you're more likely to feel exhausted, make mistakes, have problems with decision making. So, you know, rest is productive. I think people forget that. Rest is productive, and rest might look like doing nothing with your feet up. That is a productive activity. Let's get past this notion of laziness. Sometimes you just need to give yourself the gift of doing nothing. So, yeah, starting with kindness and compassion for yourself.
Can I jump in there quickly as well, Sally? I think, no, sorry.
Of course you can.
I think that giving yourself permission to do nothing is valuable. I also think giving yourself permission to jump into the thing causing you stress, and maybe do a bit of self-coaching here. What's causing me stress? What is it? What's really at play here? What's the key thing? What can I do right now? And actually tackling that stress head on, clearing that thing which is causing you the most stress, and just putting your focus into it, getting it done, getting it out of the way.
Yeah.
And look, it might take a day, or it might even take the week, but getting it done means actually when we come to the next, then you've cleared it. It's not there anymore for the most part, right? Actually having us, jumping into that stress can sometimes be the thing causing the stress can be the way that you deal with the stress. And I'm speaking to many successful people who manage stress and high pressure a lot of the time, and they will say, well, the way I do this is just by tackling the stress head on to get it cleared. Because once it's cleared, I can then begin to give myself a bit more time to then have that rest. And so some people are slightly different in the way that they process it. But
definitely.
The self-coaching and reflection on what is it.
Practical, facing into it. How can I break this down? What's in my control? That's something that I talk about a lot. If I've got loads of stresses going on, right, what's in my control? This, and this. What isn't? That, and that. Okay, well, I can't do anything about those things. Let me focus on this. How can I break this down? Who can I ask for help? What actions can I take right now? What's really, really urgent at this point in time? So yeah, facing into it, definitely a good idea, rather than avoiding it, being an ostrich and burying your head in the sand and just hoping it will go away.
Yeah, and the controllables is a great one. I always think of you because I think you were the first person to introduce me to that Stephen Covey circle of control model, and I think it's such a good question. What is causing me? What can I do? What can I control? What can I do now? What's the very first thing that I can do to manage that controllable?
Yeah, and I'll wake up in the middle of the night with something on my mind. I start thinking about stuff, and I'm like, okay, is that in my control? Well, it might be, it might not be, but it's 3:00 in the morning, and I can decide, actually, I'm going to let this go now, do some mindful breathing and get back to sleep. because I can think about it tomorrow. So I'm in control of whether I think about this now or not.
Yeah. The thing I do when I have those moments is I actually write it down.
Yeah.
Because one of the things, for me, it's I get stressed and overwhelmed when there's all of this in here, all of it kind of surrounding me. And if there's nothing in order or kind of pulled back into place, into a line, then I get really stressed and overwhelmed. So I'm like, I need to have this stuff written. So I might get my phone out doing notes or get on my planner. It is a bit tougher when you're asleep and you're trying not to be on your phone and you just want to get go with it all. But actually, I find, I don't know if you're the same there, but the overwhelm comes from all of these things you're juggling and there's no real kind of order for it.
Yeah. Or it's that, I've got to do that today. I must remember to do that tomorrow. What if I don't remember to do that tomorrow? What if I forget? Write it down. I don't want to go on my phone because it's a bright light and I'm trying to relax. So, some people, they'll have a pad of paper next to their bed just to scroll something down in the middle of the night because it's like, well, what if I forget this again tomorrow? But you're right. Having it written down and seeing it makes you feel much more in control anyway. The overwhelm comes when, right, I've got this going on, that, and that. And then you're worried about forgetting it all. And then there's actions and deadlines and responsibilities and all these things. Yeah, get it down, get it written down. Then you can see it.
Yeah, but it's out of here.
100%.
Right, that's the thing, which is stressful. It's in here floating around going, you need to do this, you need to do this. Well, if it's written down, then it's in my task list. And that could be like whether that's during the day and you're thinking about it and you have to write it down if you get out of it.
Yeah.
Or whether it's at nighttime, it's written down, it's on paper, you can go back to it. Oh, this is what I'm meant to be doing.
Yeah, 100%. And it's managing that constant buzz that I was mentioning. Because that's what it is. It's that constant buzz of I'm thinking about this and I've got to remember to do this. Actually, I can see it down and it can calm that buzz down a little bit because you can see it. And like you, I do have a pad of paper, but honestly, I put everything in my calendar now. So if I've got actions to take away, it goes in my calendar as a diary entry. I build it into my structure. I build it into my routine. I've got stuff going on this afternoon that I thought of this morning. Oh, I need to do that. I need to do that. And it just goes into my calendar because my calendar is my life. So that's how I manage it. So there's all these kind of practical tips and tricks that we can do to manage those things.
Yeah. My question was going to be like, how do you feel if that's not there?
What, the calendar?
Calendar, or if you're not organized.
You asking me that question, my heart just dropped. I'm like, no. The calendar is central to my life. Honestly, it's my everything. Like I could not live without my diary, my calendar. And that's a different way to how I used to work. I used to have task lists and written things down. Like I had to write everything down and then I could see it. That's evolved now to, I'm led by my calendar and that tells me everything that I need to do and deadlines and when to do it by.
Doesn't it feel like you're on? Like for me, it feels like you're on top of things at that point, and the stress can come, or the things, the pressure comes, but it's organized. Like if I don't have that, I am a wreck. But if it's there, and an organization, like been with the learning challenges I had at school, one of the things I had to learn was if I'm not organized, I am screwed. Like I'm all over the place from a performance standpoint, and I've created this little framework around performance, the performance processes. And that's task management, time management, planning. If they're not in place, then I am a wreck. And that's stressful. And that stops me performing well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Organize is my middle name.
Yeah, I wish it was mine.
I love organizing. I'm a bit sad like that. I love organizing.
Yeah, that's why you're a high performer, though. Sally, we have somehow smashed through 50 minutes, and it's been a super insightful. Is there anything you want to add before I leave you with a final question?
No, I don't think so. I think just remembering that stress is all part of our lives and it's part of being alive. It's all part of being human and it's never going to stop. But just remembering how you treat yourself in the middle of that will probably make a really big difference to how you carry it and how you manage it.
Yeah. And I also think, and this just might be my way of thinking about it, is like life is a journey. And I'm really on this thing at the moment. Life is a journey. And if you look at 50-year-olds and 60-year-olds who have that mindset of, we didn't deal with it like that. They've dealt with it and they probably struggled through that, but then have built this resilience to it. So yes, it's going to be really tough now. You're going to learn from it and then you're going to progress from that as well. So just enjoy it. as much as possible, being able to enjoy that learning from the stress and how you've managed it, and actually just going through it. Because at 50 years old, you're going to be a superstar at it. Same as us as professionals. We aren't great now, but when we get to 60 years old, we're going to have all the knowledge because we've learned it all, gone through it all, and had the experience.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good message, but that's kind of how I'm seeing a bit at the moment.
Yeah, I think it's all about growth mindset and building resilience, isn't it? I think, a lot of people talk about, PTSD, but not a lot of people talk about PTG, post-traumatic growth, that actually sometimes when we come through adversity, we feel stronger, we feel better, we can feel like we can deal with a lot. And if we're faced with another adversity, well, I went through something like that before, means I can do it again. What did I do? I spoke to people, I drew on these skills, I got help from here, and here. So yeah, I think we're constantly evolving, we're constantly learning. We can take our experiences forward with us for the better, 100%.
And that only comes with time, because you only get the experiences in time. So anyway, Sally, my final question to you is, what are your top 3 bits of advice for people trying to manage stress, people trying to manage stress?
3 bits of advice for people trying to manage stress. Yeah. Honestly, look after your sleep as much as you possibly can. I think that's so important in stress management. Find your tribe. Think about who you can carry it with, so you're not feeling alone and emotionally isolated and things feeling a million times worse. And third one, I think, is start with yourself, with being gentle and compassionate and kind with yourself as a starting point. And that'll have positive rippling impacts on people around you as well. Those are probably my 3 bits. What would you say?
Oh, good question.
I'm throwing it back at you now.
Yeah, good question. First one, to recognize what's causing you stress, and then tackle it. Be organized. Try to organize the overwhelm. And I always think it's here, right? Because it's where I see my brain and all the thoughts being, all those thoughts put into paper. And yeah, probably fall into your tribe and being able to share the challenge. Share, even if it's just verbalizing it. Like, I don't think anybody's going to help me with it because it's in here, right? But just being able to speak it helps. That's where I would lean into my tribe a little bit. So yeah, they're my 3.
Cool.
Don't do that again though, because this is my podcast and I ask the questions.
Under the bus. Rich.
It's fair. Sally, thank you ever so much. Where can people buy the book, and where can people find you?
So you can buy the book through my directly on my website, yourwellbeinghub.co.uk. It's also available on Amazon and Waterstones as well. And yes, I'm on LinkedIn, Sally Desborough Mental Health Awareness, Instagram, Sally_Desborough. And I am on TikTok now, so I've done that. I don't know why, but also Sally_Desborough.
Who are you?
Pardon?
TikTok. Who are you? TikTok. I don't have TikTok. I'm too old for that.
Older than you. I don't know why I did it. I don't know why I've done it, but I've done it only from a workplace perspective. Okay. Only from
are you doing videos on it?
Yeah. But if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see it on TikTok. Like, I'm not making,
Okay, you're not dancing on it. Ow.
No, that's why it causes injury. Social media, I have to have a distance with social media. I don't need that to be running my life. So, but I am on it, but I'm not creating extra special content for it. But those are the places you'll find me.
Yeah, wicked. Thank you. I appreciate you as always. Stay where you are. Everybody else, we've got a few podcasts coming up. Yeah, wicked, Ryan. Thank you. There you go. Don't expect any crazy dance moves where hit your elbow on the table, though. I'm just giving you the heads up, Ryan. But keep your eye out. We got one next week with James from Siemens, which will be a really interesting conversation from inside that workplace standpoint, and a few more coming up, which, if I'm honest with you, aren't coming to my head right now. So yeah, just keep an eye on those. But thank you again, Sally. Everybody else, appreciate you all, and we will speak to you all soon. Take care.
Thanks so much. Take care.